Hey friends, Bree here, and as I mentioned earlier this week, today we're going to touch down on fasting. So we're going to do a brief overview of the different types of fasts that I'm familiar with. We're going to explain the benefits of fasting, and then I'm going to tell you which one I recommend that you start with. So we're going to start with OMAD or OMAD. It's one meal a day. Now, I wouldn't recommend OMAD or OMAD unless you're well versed with fasting. I tried it for a little bit, and it's just not something that I like to do. But if you have a specific goal weight in mind or health benefit in mind that you want to try that for, OMAD is going to be the quickest way to reach that goal. One being you're only eating one meal a day, and when you're eating one meal a day, it is extremely hard to go over your calorie, like to eat that many calories in one sitting, because your stomach just isn't going to take it. And so overall, when you're talking weight loss, if that is your goal, it's as simple as calories in, calories out. I know a lot of people like to overcomplicate it. Over here, we simplify everything. It's calories in, calories out. So if you're trying to reach a specific goal and you're familiar with fasting and you want to give OMAD fasting a try for a week, you are going to lose weight. There is a big debate on whether or not all the weight is water weight or it's a little bit of fat loss. From my experience, it's been a little bit of both. I do drop about maybe like 5 pounds in water weight, but I do retain the other 3 or 4 pounds that I lose in that week if I'm eating one meal a day. And so I said, I'm kind of all over the place, but I would recommend OMAD fasting if you are familiar with fasting and not if you're just starting out. The most common type of fasting for beginners, I believe, is intermittent fasting, and that simply means that there's a period that you're eating and a period that you're not. Most commonly, you're going to do like a 16-hour window where you're not eating and an 8-hour window when you are eating. That's what I'm most familiar with. Most of my days, I will start eating at noon, and then I will stop eating at 8 p.m. And that's even getting up at 7 a.m., which I'm trying to be really religious about it and get up, but sometimes I'm caught slipping if the girls are keeping me up in the night. But outside of that eating window, which mine is 12 to 8 p.m., I can drink tea, I drink coffee, I drink a lot of water, lemon water, anything to like kind of keep me refreshed and replenished, because it allows me to get my water in for the day before I'm even thinking about food. But it also gives my body a break, okay? And we're gonna get to the benefits of fasting in just a little bit here. And so intermittent fasting, I would recommend for the beginner. You don't have to start with the 16-8, which is 16 hours not eating, 8 hours eating. You can start with the 12-12. 12 hours not eating, 12 hours eating. So if you get up at 8 a.m., you can eat until 8 p.m. and then cut it off until 8 a.m. the next morning. That's how intermittent fasting works, okay? So the next type of fast is, I would say, prolonged fasting. All right, no, let's go to alternate day fasting. So alternate day fasting is essentially you're eating every other day. And it sounds super daunting, but if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, you have a lot of gut problems, you have no strict health problems like medication problems, then alternate day fasting, I would say you definitely want to talk to your healthcare provider about, but also you want to be very well versed in fasting. You don't just want to jump into it. I remember the first time I was introduced to fasting by Jesus. He's like, get it under control, girl. You need to, because I used to have TIAs, transchemic, what is that called? Transchemic attacks, I believe. They're like mini strokes where this side of my face would kind of droop down, and it would take a few moments for me to kind of lift it back up. They were sending me to the cardiologist, they were sending me to get CT scans and such, and I'm just being swung around everywhere and nobody can figure it out. So I do believe that he kind of led me to that, to say, hey Bria, something's going on in your body, I want you to start fasting. So that's what I did, and I haven't had an attack in a while. So I do believe that that is why the Lord initially led me to start fasting, right? But continuing on with the fasting, so alternate day fasting, I wouldn't recommend until you're well versed. It is eating every other day. So if you start eating on Monday, you can eat. On Tuesday, you're not eating anything. You can drink water, you can drink tea, you can drink coffee, but you're not eating anything. And then on Wednesday, you would eat again. The next type of fasting I would say is prolonged fasting. Now this I am very familiar with, and I will dare to say sometimes reluctantly, because Just with my relationship with Jesus, a lot of people undermine the spiritual aspect of fasting, and it just allows you to get so much closer to the Lord and to hear Him clearly. But the Lord has had me on several prolonged fasting little ventures here. I think the longest one I've done is 7 days, which is no food for 7 days. And don't get me wrong, like, He has to be in my ear, like, Bria, 7 days, and I'll ignore it for like a month. Bria, 7 days, and I'll ignore it again for like a couple of weeks, and then I'm like, okay, Lord, all right, I'm gonna do it, right? So something like that, I would not recommend starting with. Obviously, you have to be led by the Lord. Even like a dry 3-day Esther fast, which is no water, no food. I've done some of those, but again, that's still hard too. So unless you're like spiritually sound, I wouldn't recommend doing it, because it is very difficult. And if your body is not acclimated to fasting, like, your body will quite literally feel like it's dying. The first time I tried a dry fast for just 24 hours, I was shaky, I was sick, I was pukey, my electrolytes were all out of whack. And that was just a cue for me to be like, hey, slow down, you can't start like this. So if you're interested in starting, do not start with a 24-hour dry fast. Do not start with a 24-hour water fast. Start with intermittent fasting. Okay, just select a window, start with a 12-12, then maybe you move to like a 16-14. Is that right? Is that right? I hope so. If not, then you may move to like a 16-8. You might move to like a 22, things like that. I would recommend starting with a period of time you're eating and a period of time that you're not eating for intermittent fasting. And as you kind of get used to that over time, then I would try a prolonged fast, maybe like a 24-hour fast. Still drink your water to see how your body does with no food for 24 hours, and then continue on. And the last type of fast outside of prolonged fasting is rolling fast. Now, I did rolling fast after I had my second child, Moon. And essentially what it is you're going on a fast, you're taking a day to eat, and then you're going back on that fast. What I did, which I don't recommend people just do, but I was by that time very well versed in fasting, so I could do it, is I did 72 hours no food. So 3 days no food. I would break, I would eat that 4th day, and then I would go right back into it, 3 days no food, and then I would break and eat 3 days no food. I did that for 6 weeks. And one, it allowed me to drop a lot of my pregnancy weight that I was still holding on to, but also it allowed my skin to clear. It allowed the inflammation in my body, because I had diastasis recti, where it's like your ab muscles are stretched out after the baby and they couldn't close properly, so my stomach just was constantly like protruding. It allowed me to kind of reduce the inflammation in my body and to kind of situate that with like not only exercises, but also the amount of food I was intaking, so it wasn't constantly putting pressure on that to come out. But yeah, so that's the types of fast that I'm familiar with. Now let's talk about the benefits of fasting. I'm going to put it up here so that from the beginning of the video, so that way you guys aren't just listening to me rambling. But the benefits of fasting: one, when you fast, it allows your body to do the repair of everything that's not right in your body. Think of it this way. So when you're constantly feeding your body, it's constantly working on breaking down that last thing that you fed it. It doesn't have any time to do anything with that chronic inflammation, that chronic gut problem, that chronic imbalance. It doesn't have any time to do anything with that, because it's too busy fighting that Starbucks coffee that has like 50 grams of sugar in it, right? It's too busy fighting all of that bread or all of that wheat or all of that dairy or whatever it is that we're feeding it, right? My poison was sugar. It was so busy trying to break down all the sugar I was eating, it didn't have a clue in the world to even know where to start to break down everything else. And a good analogy is like, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you have a back order of work to do, right? But you're constantly getting rush orders in, you're going to be focused on those rush orders, and that back work is just going to continue to sit because you're going to have no time for it. The same thing goes for the function of the body. Now, when you give the body time and you stop feeding it every couple of hours, I would say probably about hour 18 to 24, your body is going to begin to heal itself. It's going to bring down that chronic inflammation. It's going to start to repair that gut problem, that leaky gut, right? It's going to start to help that joint pain. and it's going to go into a process called autophagy. And that is a process where your body will get rid of the unpaired electrons, which is what causes disease and dysfunction in our body. It's going to begin to eradicate the cells that are causing problems in our body and the natural functions, the imbalances. It's going to be able